Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm very happy to announce this is a episode one of Real Estate Talk with Randy Stedwell. I am Randy Stedwell, and we are having a very special guest here named Stewart Beal, part of Beal Capital, Beal Property Management. I mean, he has his hands in pretty much anything real estate related. So we're going to get, be able to see his perspective on where we are on the market, where we are everywhere. So we're just going to kind of get to it, see how we are. If you have any questions, if you have any, comments or anything like that, put them in the comment down below. Let's keep everything positive and kind of going forward. All right. And Stuart, how are you doing? Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm very happy to have you on our show. We are, we're glad to have you here while we're here. So every so often, you're going to see me kind of look off to the side, and it's because in the group, I can see where the comments come. I can see
Okay.
who's saying it, but for some reason, because it's a group, they don't show. It just shows Facebook user.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but with that being said, I kind of wanted to get your story on like how you got started in this in real estate in general, and
Okay.
then how did you get to where you are right now? So let's start with your background and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I grew up in a bit of an entrepreneurial family, and my father was a contractor, and he would bring business magazines home from
Okay.
work, and I started reading those business magazines. And
Okay.
this was before the internet, and it was before Bitcoin. And
Okay.
so, in these business magazines, the way people got wealthy is they invested in real estate.
Hmm.
I of course didn't have any money at the time, and so what I did was I started a lawn care and landscaping company when I was 13, 14, and just started mowing neighbors' lawns and doing stuff that you would do within walking distance of your house. But when I was
Right.
16, I formed a official company and got really serious about it. Started signing contracts, hiring employees, made it a real business. And when I was 19, I sold the lawn care and landscaping company for $250,000. And
Wow.
yeah, the way I did it is I structured it kind of like a land contract in real estate, where the buyer paid me 50,000 down and then
Mhm.
$1,483 a month for 10 years. And so that was the first big business deal I did when I was 19. And then
Wow. So
when yeah, go ahead.
so I just so you started a business when you were 15 years old, a lawn care company. Okay.
Yes.
Now most 15-year-olds are out there trying to get dates to the dances and trying to, get girls out there. Now, I'm not saying you weren't, but but you're out there just trying to make a hustle. Now, I understand that because I was the same way. So the difference between what I was doing and what you did is you actually made a legit business out of it. I was just trying to earn extra money, and I was just always hustling. So
Yeah.
you
So the
actually formulate. Did your parents help you with that? And how did you know how to do all that at age 15?
Yeah, so I came up in a bit of a unique background where my mom was a lawyer.
Okay.
So she wasn't focused on like business law. She worked for the United Auto Workers in union type law.
Hmm. Yep.
But definitely, I am blessed to come from a privileged background, not from a monetary point of view. I mean, I'm I earned the money that I've made.
Right.
Uh, in terms of, trading my hours for dollars in the beginning. But I came from a background where I had a good wealth of knowledge that I could bounce ideas off of. And for sure, when it was time for me to write my first business contract, she definitely helped me with it. And I know everyone on the call doesn't have a lawyer as a mom, but there are certainly ways to reach out to your extended network and try to find inexpensive or mentorships, inexpensive resources or mentorships to get on the same playing field as I was. But no, I definitely fully acknowledge that my parents set me up pretty well for success, and that's actually something I'm focusing on now, to set my three daughters up for success. And paying for the Michigan College Fund so that they're not going to have to go into debt to pay for college, and doing a lot of things with real estate that can set them up for success. So basically it was my intensive hourly work with some certainly family help that got me started a little earlier than most people would. But the key to a small business, and one of the reasons I like real estate, and the key to a small business, is two things: contracts and recurring revenue. And that's why I really like lawn care, and that's why I really like real estate, is because both of those are contractually based recurring revenue businesses, where that money's coming in every month, and that you can make investments because it's coming in. You can make plans, you can hire employees, you can buy equipment. And that's why I really like lawn care, and that's why it transitioned me well to real estate. Is you sign a contract with someone, you can trust that most of the time they're going to pay that. They're going to hire you to mow lawns every year. And that's why my business was much more valuable than the average lawn care business. I mean, you talk to young people that have lawn care businesses. I say, show me your contracts. And they say, what? I got 100 customers, but I don't have a single contract. And I say, well, your business is worth nothing more than the value of your equipment if you don't have contracts. And so I learned that very, very early, and had every one of my customers on a contract, so that when I went to sell this business, I said, not only are you getting 400 names and email addresses of my clients, you sign contracts where they're committed to paying you money in the future. And that's why I was able to do it.
Now, for your contracts, did you do a seasonally contract, a yearly contract?
Yep. And then I started doing 2-year contracts too, eventually.
Okay. Awesome. So with that being said, how did you know? So obviously your parents were a big help with your knowledge on being an entrepreneur, getting these contracts up, and with your mom being a lawyer. But no one can just hand you drive. You have to have the drive to be able to go out there and do it. Okay. Action speaks louder than words, right? So, were you at times out there? I mean, you're 15, 16 years old. You're out there doing this business. How many of your friends were out there, doing mundane stuff, teenager stuff, things like that were trying to coax you away from that? Did you get a lot of peer pressure?
Yeah. So I think one of the keys to success in business is the stomach, the guts to make ambitious requests of people. Okay. So there is a very high likelihood that my neighbor is not going to hire a 12-year-old or 13-year-old to mow their lawn. They can hire a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old, a professional. But let's just start out by making that ambitious request. Okay. Hey, Mrs. Smith, can I mow your lawn? I'm 13. I want to save up my money to buy a better lawnmower. Boom. She hires you. So that teaches you, okay, people like being asked ambitious requests, and they respond very favorably to them. So then next time you say, hey, can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? And it just kind of snowballs into, one of the major keys to business success and real estate success is to make ambitious requests. I had a lease renewing this week. I asked the tenant, it was a commercial tenant, I asked the tenant to pay twice as much rent as they've been paying. That's an ambitious request, and believe you
Yes,
me,
it
they
is.
thought it was ambitious. They thought it was ambitious as well. But I've been doing this now for 25 years, 20 in real estate and 5 years in the lawn care business, and I'm comfortable making ambitious requests. So I made that
Right.
request, and that started a negotiation where, of course, I'm not going to get them to pay for twice as much, but it's a starting point. We're going to negotiate that. So that was a lot
Right.
of issues, and read books, read magazines, and it'll get you comfortable with doing some of that stuff. And I've talked to tons of friends and business associates, and they say they're just not comfortable making those requests. Well, if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in asking for those things, they're not gonna come.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. And that's where taking action comes in play. And, if you don't take action, you're never going to get comfortable enough to make those ambitious requests. You know,
Right.
when I'm talking to newly sellers I figure out why they're selling, I figure out all this information. Well, you know, they're asking for, we'll say $100,000, and I have to give them hey, I got to be down here at 50,
Yep.
and without them just hanging up on me, I got to deliver the blow as intellectual and as possible. They may not go with me, but at the same point, I'm still building a relationship with them, and they may go with me if I keep following up with them. So, and it opens up the negotiations, like you said. So now with that, you started very young, being ambitious. I did the very same thing. I was actually, any chance that I had growing up, I was mowing lawns, raking leaves, shoveling sidewalks. I did everything, anything that I could do. My parents, we grew up lower middle class, and I say that, but we had, my parents specifically said, hey, if we are required to put a roof over your head, 3 square meals a day, okay, and put clothes on the back. They don't have to be the best clothes, and they don't have to be the best meals, and it doesn't have to be the best roof. So that's all we're required of you. You want anything extra? There's a mower, there's a rake. I'll provide those for you. There's a shovel. I'll provide that for you. Go make money.
Yeah.
And
I would
that's what
say
I did.
I grew up upper middle class. I grew up in one of the best neighborhoods in Ann Arbor called Burns Park, and Burns Park is filled with University of Michigan professors who
Right.
don't want to mow their own lawn, but thought it was super cool to hire the neighborhood kid to mow the lawn. And I would agree with you. My parents didn't give me spending money, but they did provide a lot of the basics. And what I tell
Yep.
young people is you're never going to have more cash than when you live with your parents, because
That is right.
they pay for the mortgage, the insurance, utilities, the food. And so it's actually really good time when you're a teenager to get started in business, to start earning money and saving money, because you're not going to be able to save more money ever than when you're a teenager or a young early 20s. If you're living with your parents, you're going to save like 75-80% of your income, whereas when you move out, it's going to flip on you completely, where you're going to be lucky to
Yep.
save 20% of your income. So that's what I say to young people when they ask me, what I should be doing. I say you should be working harder as a teenager than ever to try to get a head start. And that's what I did. Is I worked just really, really hard when I was a teenager and young person to
Right.
save money. Because what do you need to invest in real estate? This is a real estate show. People say, how do I get started in real estate? Well, I say the first way to do it is to save up money to invest in real
Yep.
estate, because what are you investing if you don't have the money to do it? And a lot of people read I can get started with no money down, or I can borrow money from high interest private lenders, and there's like all these tricks. I say, skip all that. Just work your butt off for a year, 18 months, save up 25,000 and invest the right way, into real estate with starting point. And that's really the best way to get started in real estate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, because there are so many times where you see all these, okay, I can get in with zero down. Well, guess what? If you get in at zero down and it just so happens to be the exact wrong time and things tank, well, now you're upside down in those high interest loans,
Yeah, I've never
And
seen a zero down deal that's actually zero down. Yeah, you might be able to
right,
buy it for zero, but you're definitely gonna have to invest 50 grand into it in the first 6 months to make it work.
exactly.
So
So yeah, I've seen some things where people can manipulate it, and with a combination of a private money lender and a hard money lender. So with both of them come together, the problem I have that is if you're a beginner doing that. If you're an expert and you have your numbers down, that is no problem. 100% agree with that. 100%. But if you are a beginner and you haven't done not one deal, you haven't done not one rehab, more than likely you're wrong on your numbers. More than likely you're going to go over budget, and kind of go, that is going to get you just in hot water. You're going to be upside down in that deal,
yeah,
and then
yeah, I agree with
yeah,
that.
yep. So with that being said, so you're at 19 years old, you sold your business on a kind of like a land contract, where you're like, okay, well, I may not get the entirety up front, but at least I can set myself up for the next 10 years where I'm getting a reoccurring payment, and I'll work on something else.
Yeah, so one of the keys to business and real estate is multiple streams of income. So you hear people talking about that. You want to
Mhm.
invest in you want to invest in some over here. You want to invest in some over here. You want to invest
Right.
over here. And that was what uh, starting this small business and selling it allowed me to do. Is I've now got multiple streams of income. I've got the income coming in from the lawn care and landscaping business, even though I'm no longer doing 1 minute of work, and that way I can dedicate every minute of work into another stream of income. And I did
Mhm.
construction. Then I worked in construction industry. I was a superintendent. I started a construction business and started earning that money again, to
Mhm.
then save it and invest in more real estate. And then, of course, I had a third stream of income. So I went from no income to now I've got three streams of income. I've got the lawn care and landscaping business, which I'm doing nothing for. I've got the
Mhm.
construction business where I'm trading my hours for money again. And then I've got the
Mhm.
real estate investment, which in the beginning, just one property isn't going to be a very
Yep.
strong income. But again, that allows you to start snowballing things and start doing some interesting things where you can buy properties more rapidly. So in the beginning of my career, I bought a property every 18 months. Quickly, I was
Okay.
buying a property every year. Then I was buying a property every 6 months, then a property every 3 months. And then now we buy 2 to 3 properties every month of various sizes. And so it kind of like snowballs. And Warren Buffett's
Right.
autobiography, I think it's called Snowball, because you know his theory was he started 50 years ago, and it just grows and grows and grows until it's an unstoppable avalanche of success rolling down a hill, and no one can stop it. And that's what I've been working on.
Oh, wow. So are these mostly single families? Do you do multifamily, things like that? I know you do now, you deal a lot with multifamily, but in the beginning, did you start off with single family?
Yeah, so I didn't really spend much time on single family. The first property I ever bought was a 5 unit. Then I
Oh,
bought
wow.
another unit, and then the third property I bought was a 30 unit. Now it was a very distressed 30 unit. It wasn't like what you'd pay for 30 units today, but
Mhm.
I didn't spend much time on single family. I have bought single family, and single family is fine. I'm definitely not going to knock that as an investment strategy, but
Right.
always focused on what I call small to mid-size apartment buildings. So that's 5 units and up. And mid-size would go anywhere up to like 100 units.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how would you find those? Just through wholesalers, through other agents, or anything like that? Or would you be out there cold calling and trying to find those deals yourself?
Yeah. So the first the first wholesale deal I ever did was about 15 years in business.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I didn't even know what wholesalers were until about 2016 when I did probably my first wholesale deal. What I did is I used a combination of off-market and on-market strategies. So on-market is work with realtors to make offers on the
Yep.
MLS, and then off-market is writing letters, meeting people. And then another strategy that doesn't work in 2023, but maybe will again in the future. But it worked really well from 2008 to 2015, so like a 7-year stretch there. Is you'd watch listed deals get old and stale, and then you would
Hmm.
approach them with a much lower offer or a land contract offer or a very little down land contract offer and pick deals off that are technically listed, but they're just so old that um,
Yeah.
no one's looking at them anymore, and you can come in at a much more attractive deal. So yeah, lots of different strategies. Now a big one is social media. You'll see me on Facebook. You'll see me on LinkedIn. I'll go
Yep.
viral from time to time with different stuff, and uh, more than one deal a day comes into my Facebook Messenger or
Okay.
LinkedIn Messenger. Now, of course, when you're looking at a deal a day, you've got to weed out a lot of things to try to find the
Yep.
deals that work for you. But it's worth
Yep.
it because if you're trying to buy 2 to 3 properties a month, you need to have a really big deal flow coming in to be evaluating all of those deals.
Now the ones that don't work for you, what do you do with those deals? You just pitch them back? Do you
Well, some
deal
are,
with the network?
yeah, some are really horrible. So I just
Yep.
say, no. um,
Yeah.
some are in the city of Detroit. A lot of them
Hmm.
are in the city of Detroit, and I can't right now in good conscience recommend anyone invest within the city of Detroit right now, just
Gotcha.
because of what's going on with the evictions and things like that.
Yep.
So I just tell the people, hey, I'm not a Detroit investor right now. I'm a Metro Detroit investor. I'm not a city of Detroit investor right now. Um,
Yep.
and and then a lot of deals I take an hour or two to evaluate and then
Hmm.
give the person feedback. And then a lot of them we do make offers on. And then a lot of them I'm not a broker and I'm not trying to earn brokerage fees. I'm not trying to earn realtor fees. But what I do is say, hey, my friend, this guy would be interested in that, or here meet
Gotcha.
Zach, here meet Zach Metler, one of my clients who might be interested in buying it. And
Yep.
so I do a lot of introductions and keep the deals flowing that way.
Gotcha. Now, as a wholesaler myself, if you ever have any deals that don't work for you,
Yeah.
and send them over my way, I'll see if I
Okay.
can help them out. Be
Okay.
happy
Good.
to work with you. I always
Yeah.
give finder's fee. I always work things out, no problem.
Yeah. Good.
So whether it be direct to seller or through another wholesaler.
Okay. Yeah.
So either one.
You work with other wholesalers?
Yep.
Okay.
I JV a lot. So
Oh, okay. Great.
yeah. So and sometimes I'm the one that has to tell them the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you know,
Yeah. Just
uh
pick what I tell people is it's really like people contact me all the time.
yep,
Hey, Stewart, if you ever have an apartment building that doesn't work for you, kick it to me. And I'm like, well, over 500 people have asked me that. Uh, so you're going to have to do better than that. Bring me some
yep,
value and get in communication with me more often, and then you'll be top of mind. Like, I'm not going to remember you pinging me
most
on January
definitely.
9th, 2023, a year from now, saying, oh, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
like, if you bring me value, refer clients to me, refer investors to me, bring deals to
Yep.
me, then you'll get into like a tight circle that we work with, and you'll be top of mind.
Most definitely. I try to follow up with everybody as much as possible. And it's all about relationships, no matter what.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
And I don't expect anybody to just hand me over a deal without anything in return. I always pay finder's fees no matter what. So,
Yeah, that makes
um,
sense. Yeah, the whole wholesaling is kind of a world that I've dipped my toes in, but I haven't really lived
mhm,
and breathed it. So, and
gotcha.
people ask me, "Hey, Stuart, how do you buy mid-sized apartment buildings?" Okay, I could talk to you for 10 hours about that. And then another person will say, "Stuart, teach me how to wholesale real estate." And I would say, hold up. I'm actually not going to
Yep.
even tell you anything. I'll go talk to this guy, go talk to this guy, go
Yep.
talk to go talk to Randy, because I'm not going to spend my time trying to tell you how to wholesale real estate because I'm not an expert in it. But I'm an expert in a few things. And
Yeah.
so if you want to know how to do this or that, I could speak to you. You know what I mean?
Oh, most definitely. And that's another reason why we have this channel is I don't want this being okay, this is only wholesaling and that's it. I brought lenders on here. I brought other property management companies on here. I brought other people on here. I want to see just because, like, for instance, we had a hard money lender on here. And I'm like, I want to know your history. I want to see how you got started, where you're at now, what are your goals? And,
Yeah.
you're not just a hard money lender, so you're an investor as well, and so on and so forth. So, like, for instance, you have multiple streams of income and you have multiple different businesses. So, the fact that you own your own construction company, the fact that you have a landscaping company, the fact that you have uh, even though they're mid-level multifamilies, you probably have higher multifamilies by now,
Yeah.
things like that. It's crazy. So you want to bring that value to everybody else, and hopefully, if they get great value, they keep watching us. And the good thing is all of on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. We're on YouTube. We're also, if you're watching on our Facebook channel, Metro Detroit Off Market Real Estate Group, head over to my YouTube channel at Randy Stedwell and subscribe. We will, this will be on there for the archives.
Yeah.
So
Good.
looks like, you know, there we go. Look, got your video back. So, we're trying to add as much value as possible to everybody. And so at this point, you have three streams of income. You have your construction business, you have your landscape business that you sold, that's giving you reoccurring income. And then you had, what was the other business as well?
Yeah. So we had the landscaping and we had the construction, and then we have the first real estate investments.
The first real estate investment.
And the key is to save up some money before you start settling into your life. You get married,
Mhm.
you've got kids, you've got cars, you've got health insurance, you've got vacations. I just went to Disney last week. Oh my god, I couldn't believe what that cost. you know and so the key is in your young 20s to hustle. Definitely go get that job, that W-2
Yep.
job, but start a side hustle so that your W-2 job is paying your expenses and you can save 100% of your side hustle income and invest it in real estate. You've got a short window to really get started on this investment career before you start
Mhm.
settling in, and you're not able to save as much money as you could because you've got two cars, health insurance, you got to pay a babysitter, childcare, all those things that start adding up. And so that's what I did is I really focused on getting my earnings higher, saving as much of money in my income as possible, and investing
Mhm.
as much into real estate as soon as you can, because don't try to time the market. Don't wait. Don't get hesitant about investing in real estate. Get invested in real estate as quickly as possible. It's too powerful of a tool for wealth creation to wait. Because remember, when you invest in real estate, you've got 4 or 5 different amazing things that happen. The first thing is you have cash flow. The second
Mhm.
thing is you have appreciation. Your property's going up in value. The
Yep.
third thing is you have depreciation, so that's shielding your income against shielding taxes against your other income.
Mhm.
The fourth thing is your residents, your tenants are paying down your loan, so that's increasing the spread between the value of the property and the loan, just kind of stretches over time. and that improves. That gets better every single day. So it's a huge difference between investing now or 6 months from now,
Right.
in these benefits. And then of course you've got your cash out refinances, your potential sales of
Yes.
investing. But I talk to people all the time who said, "Is now a good time?" I say there is never a better time than now. As long as you buy a property that you can manage well, you've got to be able
Yeah.
to manage.
So on that, they're asking, what do you think the state of the market is right now? And again, back to what you just said, you kind of just answered it. But should we buy? Should we not? Things like that. And I think you were going into answering that, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate that question.
Yeah, you should buy a deal that you can manage well, or your property management
Mhm.
company can manage well. You should buy a deal that you get a couple different benefits on. Are you a sweat equity guy? Are you a guy that likes doing the financing and the insurance and the construction management? Do a deal that is good for you. I would not do a deal where you think you're going to increase your rent a whole bunch this year. Rent has
Mhm.
increased very rapidly over the last 2 years, and if you're looking at a deal where the seller says that you can increase it way more, I would be hesitant about that. So make sure you're just doing some tight underwriting on the seller's numbers. Don't say, okay, this guy's charging way too little, I'm going to charge way more. That's dangerous in
Right.
2023. That might have been fine in 2021, but that's dangerous in 2023 because that guy's already raised rent a whole bunch. Um,
Yeah.
and I was looking at my Toledo deals that I own. I own uh, about 500 apartments in Toledo right now, and
Mhm.
I looked in 2021 we were charging about 500 a month, and now in 2023 we're charging about 700 a month.
Mhm.
That's a huge increase over 2 years.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to buy a building in Toledo and you see that the current owner is raised rent 200 a month, you got to be worried, trying to convince you can raise it another 200. So you got to
Yeah.
be careful. You got to be careful looking at deals in 2023 about rent increases. But I think expenses are going to stabilize. Obviously, those skyrocketed too. So expenses are going to stabilize. I think interest rates are going to stabilize. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in 2023 for real estate investment.
And that actually brings up another question. Was Gary Corbin asked, um, he said, no better time than now, a question mark, even with the 7% interest rates. So,
Yeah, yeah. So you're going to be offering less in 2023 than you offered in 2022. And I've got a
mhm,
couple of deals where I made an offer about a year ago.
mhm,
In my underwriting, I had 3.5% interest rate because I had just gotten a loan from Old National Bank in Ann Arbor for 3.5% interest rate. Well,
right.
Old National's at 6.25. So
Okay.
it was only at 7% for about 2 weeks. It's down
Okay.
all the way. It's down all the way down to 6.25. And actually, Old National said that if the building is Class A, they can get down to all the way to 5.85 right now.
Oh,
So
wow.
don't get me wrong. It was up to 7% there for a minute, but
Yeah.
it's way back down again already. So
Okay.
but again though, even with 6.25, there is a huge difference in the cost of debt between 3.5 and 6.25. And so that means you have to offer less than you did a year ago. And the seller
Right.
says, "Stuart, what are you talking about? Real estate has gone up in value in the past year." And
Mhm.
what I say to my sellers is, look at my math. I'll show it to you. What
Yep.
it's not true because a buyer with 3.5% interest rate can pay a million, but with 6.25, you can only pay 850,000, or whatever the math works out. So you got to be careful about that. But yeah, I I,
Yes.
uh, I'm not concerned about 6.25 or 5.95. I was concerned about 7. That was getting pretty difficult there for a minute.
Yeah. And I think between 5 and 6%, even a little bit more than 6%, I think that's where we need to stabilize and keep, because a lot of people don't realize that until you know, for the past, with the exception of the past couple years, for the past, like, say 2 or 3 years, interest rates have been at like 6% or above, you know.
Yeah. So
So
my first deal I ever did in 2002 was at 5.25% fixed for 5 years. And
yeah,
then when it got to the fifth year, I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of messed it up a little bit. I'd never had a loan expire before. So it went to
gotcha.
floating. It went from 5.25 to floating. So I get a letter in
Hmm.
the mail saying, hey, your interest rate's 5.25. The next month I get a letter in the mail saying it's 5.5. Then I get a letter in the mail saying it's 5.75. And I didn't know what to do, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so then I contacted my banker. This was back in 2007, you know, when I was like 24 years old. I said, hey, what do I
Hmm.
do? He said, oh, we just got to refinance again on a 5 year. And we got it back down to like 5.25 again, I think. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I'm not,
I think that's where we're going to stabilize, to be honest.
yeah,
So, you know, do I think that we'll come down eventually, maybe in a few years? But you know, I honestly think we're going to be in the fives and sixes for it's going to stabilize right around there. So,
yeah. And I
um,
think you'll be fine investing in mid-sized apartment buildings at
mhm.
5.5, as long as the seller is looking at the same numbers you are. You know, if he's looking at 20 numbers, 3.6% interest rate, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But remember, no one's going to be able to pay more than you can for the building uh, in these mid-sized apartment buildings. Now,
Right.
if you go out and try to buy a 250 unit apartment building, that's where it's very challenging. You might have a 5 interest rate, but the other
Hmm.
buyer might have a 3 because he's got different type of money. He's got Chinese money or insurance money or New
Yeah.
York money. And when you get to that level, it's harder to compete against the big guys. But on mid-sized apartment buildings, 20 units, 30 units, everyone's going to have the same interest rate. They're going to all be calling the same banks, and so you just got to offer what makes sense for you. Don't get too aggressive.
Yeah. So, is it Jim Wellington asked, what are your thoughts on multifamily valuations? Many sellers have very high expectations on value, particularly if they're locked in a 3 to 4% interest rates. A buyer now isn't getting that rate and most likely can't pay the price that reflects debt service as much lower interest rates or current owners. So, do you anticipate some type of price correction in multifamily?
Yeah. So the person I'm going to be buying from in 2023 is a mom and pop seller. They've owned the property for a long time.
Mhm.
They want to retire, and their kids want nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
Also, they realize that they have not been reinvesting in this property. And so they've got some major items that they need to invest in. Maybe the city's cracking down on them, maybe their bank's cracking down on them. They have to replace the roof or the windows or the parking lot. Something that's going to cost 100 grand,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And these folks haven't been aggressive on their rent increases, so these buildings aren't cash flowing like they should, even though the debt is very low.
Right.
And when they're faced with an improvement that's going to cost 100 grand or maybe even two, so there's going to be 200 grand. You got roof and a parking lot. That's going to be
Yep.
a seller. And then the third thing, it's someone whose debt's expiring in 2023. So that just happened to me. I should have refinanced a loan 6 months ago, but I was like, it doesn't expire for another 6 months. I'm busy. I'm buying these other properties. Now I have to
Yeah.
refinance it. I have to refinance it next month, and I'm going from a 4.4 to a 6. And
Oh.
luckily I've been managing the property pretty well. It's going to cash
Mhm.
flow at a 4.4 or a 6, so I'm going to be fine. But there's going to be some people that they're not going to be fine. They haven't been managing the property aggressively enough, and it doesn't work at a 6, and they're going to sell. So we just bought a 20 unit in Ypsilanti where all three of those things were true at the same time. Mom and
Yep.
pop seller that's getting older, the city's cracking down, saying, "Hey, 2 years ago we told you had to replace this parking lot. You didn't. Now you're
Yep.
definitely going to have to." And then
Mhm.
three, the debt was expiring, and so we bought the 20 unit for a good price. So you're going to be looking for that type of seller. You're definitely not going to buy a nice property, Class B or Class A, from a guy who's got 3% interest rate in 2023. It's not going to work.
So have you dealt with any properties that are going to be, especially in the multifamily, where you want to do like a seller finance, where you know, they have a great interest rate, they just want nothing to do with the property. It's a mom and pop, like you said, and they're looking to retire and they haven't put much money into it. And they're like, well, you have this great interest rate. Let me either take over your loan and give you a partial seller finance or do a full seller finance. Have you done
Yeah,
anything like that?
yeah, definitely. So we just bought an office building in Lansing, 16,000 square feet,
Hmm.
where the heating and cooling system died. And so now this guy's got no heat in his building and he's got tenants. And I said, look, the building's not financeable right now, but I'll buy it on a land contract. And so
Hmm.
I bought a 16,000 square foot office building for $20,000 down, on a land contract. We've now put
Hmm.
in a new $160,000 heating and cooling system.
Hmm.
We're gonna do some lease up improvements and get this building leased back up, and then we're going to do a cash out refinance on the building. And so that's
Gotcha.
an example. That's an example of seller financing. And then on loan assumptions, yeah, some loans are very attractive to assume right now because of the
Hmm.
low interest.
Okay, awesome. So I had another one, another question on here from Earl Harris, and I can't post it on here because it didn't come through here for some reason. But he said, what would be your recommendations or advice to someone starting out in trying to source potential deals? And I think we kind of talked a little bit about it, but he probably came in late. So I just let me reiterate a little bit of that is that you mainly have deals just straight come to you. Is that right?
Well, the answer to that question is you want to meet sellers of real estate, right? You're a buyer of real
Gotcha.
estate. You want to meet sellers of real estate. So how do you meet sellers of real estate? First of all, always be networking.
Yep.
Secondly, reach out to the people that deal with sellers of real estate. So that's
Hmm.
wholesalers, real estate agents, banks, insurance companies, title companies, contractors. Oh my gosh, contractors. Let me tell you about
Yes.
that. So I hired a guy to trash out a apartment for me.
Hmm.
And he said and I said, hey, if you're ever trashing out an apartment on someone else's property and you think they might sell, call me. And 1 week later, he said, Stewart, I don't know exactly what to do right now, but I got this guy named Milo. He owns a 24 unit in Romulus, and he let it slip that this is the last job he's going to hire me to do because he's going to sell the building. So he was like, hey, thanks for trashing out my apartment. This is the last one you're going to do for me. I'm going to sell the building. I was like, give me Milo's phone number. And within 24 hours, within 24 hours, I'm meeting with Milo in his garage. He's smoking cigarettes like three at a time, and I'm there, just talking to this guy. He's like 70 years old, and we struck a deal for a 24 unit in Romulus right then and there, and that was from a contractor. So if you're a buyer of real estate, you want to network with sellers of real estate, and
Yeah.
just always be networking. So that's your banks, your insurance companies, your wholesalers, your real estate agents, your contractors, and just make it known. Shout from the rooftops that you're a buyer of real estate, and the deals will trickle in the beginning. And then once you start buying, people will be like, "Oh, this guy's serious," and then they'll bring you more deals. Just like you're a wholesaler, right? You don't
Yep.
spend a lot of time with people that you know that are not serious. You spend the
Most
most time
definitely.
with people that you know are serious, repeat buyers, cash buyers, and so you want to
Yep.
develop a relationship of seriousness.
Exactly. And it's funny because when I have a cash buyer that I don't deal with very often, I've never dealt with before, I have a earnest money deposit for him versus a earnest money deposit for somebody who's closed multiple deals with me.
Right.
You know, so it's it's a
It's
safety
relationships.
mechanism.
It's relationships.
Yep,
Yeah,
100%.
for sure.
So, yeah, that is. I mean, get out there. That's. basically the same answer I have is get out there, get to know people, and shout from the rooftops from everybody, family members. For you're out there getting your oil change and you're just shooting the shit with somebody, tell them you buy real estate. You never
Oh,
know what happens.
what was so funny is I went to the Michigan State basketball game this Saturday, and my friend
Uh-huh.
said, let's go to the student bar called the Riv, and I showed up in my Michigan gear, and some guy came up to me and started ripping on me because I was wearing Michigan gear in the enemy territory.
Yep.
And then he was like, "Where are you from anyway?" And I was like, "I'm from Ypsilanti." He said, "Oh my God, I just got a job in Ypsilanti, and my boss owns this and owns that." And I'm like, "Oh, let me get a lunch with this guy." And so like just talk, just
Yep.
communicate, networking, meet people, and it comes together.
Most definitely.
Yep.
So yeah, so on that, it's relationship. That's kind of how, like, I've done some of my easiest deals that way, and I've gotten some really hard deals, by cold calling. So, and you never know what happens, and kind of going from that. But now going to what you have now, you know, going to what you have now, you have obviously a lot of multifamilies and a lot of different businesses. So, what other businesses do you have right now that's going on? And how did you, for instance, we know that you have a property management company. So, tell me a little bit about that and how you got started in property management.
Yeah, so in property management, people would call all the time saying, "Hey, Stuart, I see that you're doing real estate and doing pretty well. Will you manage my property?" And I always said, "No, I've got to focus on my things." But then I started hiring some staff to manage my properties, and I realized it would be great if I could get some additional revenue to pay these people more to work for me more full time if I
Right.
managed more, and that's how we started building the business. Right
Okay.
now, we manage about 500 properties in 65 cities around Metro Detroit, and about 400 of them are owned by other people. But that allows me to have a staff of 65 employees that benefit my properties and our clients' properties, and it's just a
Right.
really robust staff. That's the reason we started the property management company. And then we also help people with real estate investments. So I'm not here to help you buy and sell real estate, but if you want to invest in real estate with me, you can go to
Mhm.
bealcapital.com, and you can invest in some of our smaller deals as a non-accredited investor. Or if you are an accredited investor, you can invest in our real estate syndications, which
Mhm.
which are the deal mechanism we use to go after the bigger properties, the 100 unit, properties.
So you just dropped a big bomb right there. So, because not a lot of people, maybe a lot of people here may know what a syndication is, and I kind of have an idea, but for the people who don't, what is a syndication, and how do you go about, like, with your company, Beal Capital, get part of the smaller deals? Like, what is how is somebody, it's just a website. So how does somebody know for sure that, if they gave you, say, $10,000, $20,000, that they're going to get either a return or see statements saying where their money's being put and things of that nature. So how does all of that work?
Yeah. Okay, great. So our minimum investment is $25,000, and if
Okay.
you're not an accredited investor, and you're having trouble buying a property, or you don't know exactly what to do, you can invest with us in one of the deals that we're already doing, and
Mhm.
the documents govern the relationship. So you're going to be signing an operating agreement that says
Yep.
you're a partner in this business. You're going to be issued a share, and you're going to get a quarterly update on the success of the real estate. In addition to that, if you're local, you can visit the property. You
Mhm.
can review the deed, review the closing statement, review the appraisal. It's just like you're buying the property yourself, except you're doing much less of the work or none of the work. It's more of a passive investment. Those are the small.
Okay.
Those are the small deals. Now on real estate syndications, bigger is better, right? In business, you want to do
Right.
the biggest thing ever. Well, even me, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's hard for me to have $5 million available to buy a 216 unit apartment building in Lansing. So
Mhm.
someone before me invented something called a real estate syndication as a
Mhm.
vehicle to pool investors' money together to buy that together. So that's what we do. Right now, we're raising $10 million
Mhm.
at $25,000 a share from investors. We'll probably have about 100 investors, and that will allow us to go buy a 216 unit apartment building in Lansing or a 150 unit apartment building in Monroe, going after those
Okay.
bigger. Yeah.
Awesome. So with that, what's the difference between a syndication and a REIT?
Yeah. So a REIT is often a publicly traded vehicle that's publicly traded on the stock exchange, and
Mhm.
it's operated by a very large corporation. Real
Mhm.
estate syndications are usually operated by two, three, four, five guys and a small staff, and they're
Mhm.
doing something much smaller than a REIT. A REIT has costs associated with it where you've got to be buying, $500 million worth of real estate to make that worth it. Whereas
Gotcha.
the smallest syndication I ever did was we raised $2.5 million. We bought about $8 million worth of real estate, and that was 184 apartments. And
Okay.
the costs are lower, so you can do smaller things with syndications. So
So
it's a similar
so
structure, but it's smaller and
so
it's
with the
private.
yeah, so with the syndication, do you get like dividends or do you just get your shares bought out when you sell the property? Like how does that normally work? Is it a passive income monthly?
Yeah. So it different sponsors do it different ways, but I'll tell you the way I've done it, and I'm currently doing my eighth one, and everyone was set up the exact same. Uh,
Okay.
an investor gets a 7% preferred return on their investment, and then above 7%, it's split 70-30. So 70% goes to the sponsor, which in this case, 70% goes to the investor, and
Mhm.
30% goes to the sponsor, which in this case is myself. So if you invest $100,000, you're going to get $7,000 back before the sponsor earns any money. And then if the
Mhm.
investment does better than 7%, then it's split 70-30. And my
Gotcha.
syndication, the last 3 years have returned 10% to the investor. So if you invest 100,000, you'll get 10,000 back a year, and that's only cash on cash. That doesn't include all the other benefits of investment real estate. That's the appreciation, the depreciation, the
Yep.
paying down the loan, cash out refinances, sales. Um,
And that's a big question. Can you, you're in a syndication, can you depreciate?
Yeah, so it's exactly like you own the real estate. It's all flows through the K1. So
Okay.
if you invest 100,000 real estate syndication, you're gonna own a 1% interest in the syndication, and you're gonna get 1% of the appreciation, 1% of the cash flow, 1% of the depreciation, just like you were doing it yourself and investing all of the money so that you have 100% of it. The syndication is not for someone who wants to get in their truck, drive to the job, set the guys up, drive to Lowe's, get the stuff, help carry it
Mhm.
in, you know, put a sign out front that says for rent, get the calls, show the place, rent the unit, manage it, wake
Mhm.
up in the middle of the night, change the toilet. That's not who a real estate syndication is for. A real estate syndication is for someone who wants passive income.
Gotcha.
And there's two ways to do it, and a lot of people do it both ways. That's how I do it. I run my property management company. I'm on the ground dealing with the pros and cons of real estate, but I've also invested passively in other people's syndications, and you get that mailbox money, which is the best money there is.
That's yeah, 100%. I wish I had that mailbox money.
Well,
So
you're young. You're just you're
yep,
getting started. You make it happen.
most definitely. And I actually still have a day job. I have a 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I do wholesaling on the side. I treat it like a full-time job.
Okay.
And I've even told people that everyone's like, well, why don't you just go full time? You're doing pretty well. And I'm like, yes, I am. But I want to the only way I will quit my job is if I replace my income
Yeah.
with with either rental income or passive money income,
Right.
something that's consistently coming in.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
And people call me and say, "Hey, Stuart, I want to quit my job and be you." And I say that's actually not me. I've never quit my job. I work as hard as now as I ever did running the
yep,
property management business because I don't ever want to lose that trading my hours for money uh, uh,
yep,
in in the short term. I want to be trading my hours for money. I want to be investing it in real estate and investing it in this business. So now I've got multiple streams of income, all of which I save up and buy more real estate. So that I'm not the guy on the beach. There might be guys on the beach, but that's not me.
So tell me a little bit about, with you getting a lot of, property management, other people wanting to, for you to take their deals, or not their deals, sorry, to take their properties and manage their properties and things like that. How is it you went from doing property management from your just all your property, where you're the only one you have to answer to now a lot of other people that even though they're paying you, now you still have to kind of answer to them as owners of the property.
Yeah, you've got to have a temperament. Property management is really tough when you're the owner, and then it's doubly tough when you're in the middle of the tenant and the owner. So
Yeah.
I had a client recently on the property side who said, "No, we're not fixing that." And I had to go to the tenant saying, "Sorry, we're not fixing that." And then the tenant said, "Okay, well, if you're not fixing it, I'm not paying rent." So then you got to go back to the client and say, "We really need to fix it if they're going to stop paying rent." And then the client
Mhm.
said, "No, evict them." So then I go back and I say, "Hey, look, if you're, we technically don't need to fix that. And if you don't pay your rent, then we're going to have to evict you." And she said, "Okay, evict me." So then I go back to him and he says, "Evict me." And I go back to her, so that's the
Yeah.
tough part of property management. And if you don't have the temperament for it, where you're just doing it more in like a robotic fashion instead of getting like all excited and all angry and the passions run high, you're not going to last very long. And so really it's just focusing on the facts and focusing on the document, and trying to keep the emotions out of it.
So 100%. And I wholesale a lot of properties, and probably I started wholesaling and I still do a little bit inside Detroit. What areas are you seeing? Because I know you do property management inside Detroit. Um, what areas are you seeing that are good areas? There's a lot of bad areas and things like that, but what are good areas to invest in
Yeah.
Detroit? And what do you look for in screening your tenants in order to make sure that you don't have to go to the eviction process as least as possible?
Yeah, so the city of Detroit is tough right now because default rates are skyrocketing. I was just hired to manage 136 apartments in 30 different buildings in the city of Detroit as a property management client. And in the 136 units, over 60 or 70 tenants are delinquent in their rent. And that's really
Wow.
just an impossible situation where more than 50% of the tenants are delinquent in their rent. You want to have like 5, 6, 7% at the very most of your tenants being delinquent in the rent. This client has 50% plus
Hmm.
delinquent. And so I am not a Detroit neighborhood expert, and I can't speak to that question as well I would like. I'm a Detroit property management expert. You give me a building in Detroit, I'll manage it as good as anybody, but I can't tell you what neighborhood to invest in and what not to. But if you send me an email, I can introduce you to a few folks who can. That's what
Oh,
that's
awesome.
when I don't know the answer to a question, I say, send me an email and I'll introduce you to the guy who knows.
Most definitely. And that's the key thing is that, there's a lot of people back in this is just my opinion because I've been wholesaling a lot in Detroit, since I started. And a lot of people think, okay, this is back in, 2020, 2021. Oh, we're still there where you can be evicted. It takes 9 months to a year to evict you. And even though they made it harder, the state has made it harder still for us to evict inside Detroit. It's still a lot faster than it was when we did have COVID. We can actually get court dates,
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But, um, you know, hopefully, how do you screen your tenants to
Yeah.
try to avoid as much of that?
Yeah. Our requirements in the state of Michigan are a 600 minimum credit score, 3 times
Okay.
income, no evictions, no bankruptcy, no
Mhm.
collections other than maybe some minor medical collections, and a good rental reference. And if you don't have that, we require a cosigner. Obviously, that works much better in downtown Ann Arbor than it does in a neighborhood in Detroit or Flint or Pontiac. But you've just got to be careful and select your residents. You've got to select your best applicants in those areas. And
Right.
you can flex on those requirements if necessary. If you're not getting the to keep the occupancy you want, you can lower those requirements a bit and tweak them.
Yeah. And Emmett was actually saying that Sierra funds are a big problem. And actually, I think Sierra funds have actually run out. Have you heard that?
Yeah, we're done. We're done. I haven't filled out a Sarah application in probably 6 months, and we just got our last payment maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't really expect any
Okay.
other Sarah payments.
I
Maybe
Yeah, I
maybe a
think
few.
they stopped taking applications.
Yeah, maybe a few, and maybe a few in Detroit are still coming, but that's kind of gone by the wayside.
Yep.
Now, do the judges know that and respect that? That's another thing. We'll see how they play it out. But yeah, Sarah created a major cultural problem
Hmm.
where we've got people that were paying their rent just fine until COVID happened. Nothing
Yep.
happened to them to affect their income. They just got in habit of not paying, and now they're not paying still. It created some
Hmm.
cultural. And with that said, it did help out people legitimately too. I've got dozens of examples I could rattle off about how it really helped both the landlord and the tenant. But there's no question that some people are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask another question: is what is your stance on rent control policy from Lansing? Some legislators are trying to introduce the bills.
Yeah,
Have you heard anything about that?
yeah. I don't get really too concerned about what happens in the economy, and I don't really get too concerned about what happens from a political standpoint because
Yep.
I've just always outsmarted and outworked the competition. And so if they pass rent control, obviously that'll put a cap on the value of real estate. It'll probably
Yep.
create buying opportunities, unexpected buying opportunities, and we'll figure out a way to get around it. Rent control is also illegal at the federal level, so I don't see anything that anyone at the state of Michigan would do would affect that. But
Yeah.
I don't spend too much time on that. What I spend time on is evaluating off-market mid-size apartment buildings and just buy them and manage them.
Yeah. So that brings us to another question is what, what are you, like how you acquire these properties? Are you going out and buying a loan or are you doing this straight through your syndication and through your capital through Beal Capital? I mean, how would say you don't have that, say you're me, okay, and I don't have nothing like that. How would you say I go out and buy a 20 unit apartment building? You know, would you buy just saving up 20% down or
Uh, if you've got limited cash and you've got a deal, what you should do is put together a small partnership, an LLC, where you are an
Mhm.
investor and then you invite several other investors into the deal. and set it up not as a syndication, but as like a joint venture.
Gotcha.
And you just have, like, let's say it's a 4-unit apartment building. It's a $400,000 price, $100,000 cash, $300,000 loan, but you only have $25,000 and you need $75,000 for investors. You just create an LLC and have 3 guys come in for $25,000 each, and then the 4 of you own the deal, and then you charge them some fees to put it together because you're the one doing the work. So
Right. So, so I'm always looking for deals that I can bring partners in, and I say, they bring in the money, I'll run the project, so therefore I get whatever we agree upon, whether it be they don't have to do anything. So therefore, they get 50% of the deal, I get 50% or 70-30 or however we work it out.
yeah.
And, so is that something realistic that a investor would do?
I would say that you need to invest some of your own capital because
Okay.
me as an investor, I'm not investing in something unless someone's investing in some of their own capital. But if you're young and starting out, it doesn't need to be a lot.
Right.
I'd put in 3/4 of it. If the guy's bringing a quarter and doing it.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. That's that's what I'm trying to, for me, because the thing is that all my wholesaling money actually has gone to and I've been open with this with my channel, that we've been all our wholesaling money has gone to updating our personal house. So, I got to make the wife happy first. That's first and foremost. So after that is done, then I'll be able to start saving up and actually doing deals of my own. And I do want to get into multifamily.
Yeah, and I say one thing at a time for sure. Just keep hustling and getting that first goal accomplished, and then start saving money for multifamily.
Awesome.
And Randy, we've been going for an hour and 7 minutes. I got to wrap. Got any final questions?
Yeah. So sorry about that.
No problem. I love it.
Yeah. So no, just one last question is where are you going in the future? So what is your future goals, and what do you have that maybe anybody here could even help you out with, or anything like that?
Yeah. Okay, great. So my career goal is to buy bigger, nicer, easier to manage stuff. The easiest spot to get started is Class C, Class D, value add, need a ton of work type projects. And that's naturally where a lot of guys start out. And that's where I started out and I've been dealing with for a long time. I'd like to sell some of that harder to manage stuff and trade it into some nicer, easier to manage stuff. Buildings where you can attract the highest of quality people, the highest credit scores, the highest incomes, people that treat your property better than some others might. So that's one of my career goals. And then people that are listening to this, the way you can help me is invest with me. Contact me at bealcapital.com or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I'm Stewart Beal. Or also hire us to manage your property. We'll manage property anywhere in the state of Michigan, whether it's a single family home up to the largest property we ever managed was a 468 unit apartment building. And then also, if you're a contractor listening, we always need good contractors. And then also, if you need help with something that you are working on, you have questions, you want me to look at a deal with you, I'll give anyone an hour of my time and gladly look at a project with you, meet up for lunch. I do lunches a lot too, where we meet together 3-4 guys at a time. So yeah, let's stay in touch. Let's keep networking.
Awesome. Yeah, so Emmett did ask, do you do deals out of Michigan? And obviously we know you do in Ohio, because you said Toledo. And he said, if so, where? So is there any other places?
Yeah, so I just invest an hour with a driving distance of my house, basically. And I live in Ypsilanti, so that covers Toledo, anywhere in Metro Detroit, and Lansing. Although I did make an investment in Grand Rapids just because I think that it's a really fast growing area. And so, I thought that might be a good idea, but mostly just close by. I want to be able to see it, touch it, feel it.
Yep. Awesome. And then are you doing any development where you maybe buying a big chunk of land and building apartment buildings?
I've never bought a building. I've never built a building, excuse me, because construction cost in the state of Michigan has always been 300% higher than you could buy in a building for. As an
Hmm.
example, I bought a 60 unit in Monroe that came with some vacant land, and I asked a
Hmm.
contractor to quote building the 60 unit, and I bought the 60 units that were there for 2 million, and he said it would cost 12 million to build the next 60 units. So obviously that
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
doesn't work, So
Oh,
I've never.
yeah.
I'd like to, but I've never done it.
Okay. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, great
So
conversation.
yeah, most definitely. And we appreciate you coming on this channel and seeing anything. And if you have any questions for Stewart Beal, get a hold of him at Beal Capital, any of his LinkedIn, his Facebook channels, or anything like that. And you can also invest with him as well. So I really do appreciate you coming on with us and at least showing us that, hey, anybody can do it as well. And I really, really, honestly, like, it actually helps me a lot that, talking about when you started when you were a kid. I think that more parents should have started out like your parents did.
Awesome.
And I'm trying to get, that's another goal of mine eventually, once I get successful with this channel, is hit as much younger people as possible so they can get that in their head as early as possible.
Awesome. And
So,
let me leave you with my email address. It's
yeah,
sbeal, SBEAL, at gobeal, GOBEAL.com, and email me as well.
awesome. So
Awesome.
definitely do that. And if you have any questions, if you have any deals or anything like that, get a hold of Stuart Beal. You can also JV with me. My number is here, and my email is in the description below. I appreciate it, Stuart. Hope
All
you
right.
have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.